Hi, this is an abbreviated artist talk that I recorded in August of 2023. Enjoy! Hi, I'm James Thurman, and this is an abbreviated artist talk about the evolution and convergence of different aspects of my studio practice. So currently, I'm focused on what I'm calling my suite series, which are pieces that bring together all of these kind of previously divergent and different ways of working in the studio. So my background in jewelry making and metalsmithing, my interest and pursuit of metal spinning, associated wood turning to that, Thermonite, a layered recycled paper material that I developed that I'll talk a bit more, and then also bringing in what started off as a hobby with painting miniatures and just incorporating those into the finished pieces. So this piece in the suite series is called Repercussions, and it incorporates all of those aspects. The lid of the spun vessel is a kind of sculptural wearable ring that is made from the pages of Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And this whole piece is sort of about humanity's relationship to our oceans and the repercussions of maybe our ignorant actions tied to that. This is a detail of that sculptural ring that I mentioned, and I don't sculpt the miniatures that I use, but I always give credit to the original sculptors and manufacturers of those. And you can see the ripples in that layered paper and little bits of text, and I'll talk more about how that appears. So let's start back at the beginning. And my first kind of positive experience I had with art making was painting a little fantasy miniature that you see pictured here. I was 13 years old and really into Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And a local hobby store had a competition, and I entered and got a little gift certificate. So I felt that that was really a positive experience and encouraged me to think more seriously about ultimately studying and pursuing art as a career. So I ended up doing that and graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with a BFA in sculpture. But sculpture didn't really seem like the best fit for me. I was developing other interests in metalworking and craftsmanship and function that didn't really fit with my understanding of contemporary sculptural practice. So I set up my own studio and began creating a new body of work that was more focused on contemporary craft practice and specifically in metalsmithing. While I was doing that, I thought just in case this art thing doesn't work out, I went to night school and got certified as a machinist. And so ultimately ended up pursuing metalsmithing and getting my MFA in metalsmithing, studying under Gary Griffin at the Cranbrook Academy of Art. I didn't do yoga a lot in the studio, and I'm not sure of what Gary thought of me doing a little headstand there. And in case you're not familiar with metal spinning, which was the focus of my MFA, here's a little short video, kind of a view of above of my lathe. And so how metal spinning works is it's a forming process, not carving away like wood turning or machining, but you take a flat metal disc that's held between forms, and you can see me here basically with a very large burnisher using the leverage of the tool post and the tool rest to press the burnisher against the sheet metal while it's spinning, and you can see slowly the metal being formed. So it's kind of more similar to throwing pots on a wheel since it's a forming process. But obviously you can't grab the spinning metal with your fingers, so you need some other tools and safety processes there. So um, that's a little quick glimpse of metal spinning. And while I was in graduate school, I was really fortunate to take a wood turning workshop at Aramont School of Arts and Crafts with John Jordan, and ultimately ended up buying my lathe that I still work on from John. And it was just a life altering and amazing experience. And I started being inspired to incorporate woodworking into my metal forms. And so this is kind of the pieces that I finished up my MFA with. And so you can see the wood turned components mixed in with the spun metal parts, and just exploring the relationship of the different materials together, the patterns of the wood grain, and so on. And I was very fortunate to land a full-time teaching position at Penn State University, teaching both metalsmithing and 3D foundations. And while I was there, I was sharing a studio with a printmaker and artist bookmaker, and we were approached about designing awards for an environmental or green design conference. And this is what we came up with. He had a lot of old books sitting around the studio, and we thought, well, let's make something recycled but also functional. So we did these candlesticks, and they were just quickly bandsawn and bolted together. But if you can see these patterns that start emerging as you're cutting through the book, particularly on angles, and there was something that just ignited my passion seeing these patterns where the paper was from trees and then they're printed and then it's a book and then you cut it apart and it starts having something like wood grain again. And so I was just enraptured in the possibilities and had to just pursue it, even though I really was focused on my practice as a metalsmith and jeweler. And here you can see a detail of one of those pieces and the pattern that starts resulting there. And so I got more ideas about how to incorporate this into my own work. This is the kind of pieces that I was making. And so I figured it made sense to just bring that paper onto the lathe along with the metal that I was working on. And so this was one of the earliest pieces that I did with that, where I just glued each individual page together and let it set up in a block and then started carving through it just like a block of wood. And those patterns started re-emerging, and you could see little bits of the text, but then you'd see little slices that almost looked like DNA coding or wood grain and all sorts of just exciting possibilities. So I spent several years kind of delving in and becoming a papersmith and exploring the possibility and seeing what materials would work better. These are a bunch of aerial maps that I wanted to start getting into color and pattern and layering those together, exploring different adhesives that would work well. And what you see here is the layers of the maps glued together, and the white that you see is the thickness of the paper. So generally paper is printed with the colored inks on the surface, and then as you cut through it, you get these little bits of the white that's the angle of the thickness of the paper as you're cutting through there. And I just thought there was just such amazing possibilities. And sometimes, so I started with these plates, and sometimes I would keep it with the source material, like this old textbook, and you can see bits of the images, bits of the text. Uh, and then, of course, wanted to bring it back around to jewelry. And so this is a smaller 2-inch brooch, and this is just black and white construction paper. But I thought it'd be great to pair it with the layered steel of Damascus steel. And at this point, I had wanted to share the material with others, and so I had come up with a name for it. And since it looked like a mineral, or some people are familiar with Fordite, which is layered automotive lacquer, I ended up calling it Thermanite. And this is another series of jewelry that I was working on and starting to make little stones or cabochons out of the Thermanite. So again, you can see little bits of the text, but then it's held in place in this larger sterling silver brooch. And since I wanted other people to work with it, I had curated some other exhibitions, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to really get the material out there to people. And so I asked a lot of different jewelers and metalsmiths if they would be interested, and worked with them on what Thermanite made from what materials they might be interested in, and sent them pieces. And it began at a gallery in Istanbul, Turkey, in June 2021 with more than 40 different artworks, and has continued to grow through other venues. And I was just so impressed and amazed with all the different approaches that people took. Uh, and you might be familiar with some of their works. So I love Andy Cooperman's sort of map book brooch pendant necklace that he did. And then Dan DiCaprio just took a black and white block and carved it similar to some of his other carved wooden brooches with ebony here. My wife, Umut Demirguç Thurman, was actually one of the first people to be collaborating and working with Thermanite. And so this is kind of a two-part wearable lotus brooch that she made with the Thermanite pink there in the center. And there's just so many different creative examples of people working with ways with Thermanite that I would never even imagine. And so these are just a few small sampling of the whole exhibition. mostly jewelry, but then like Harlan Butt's vessel right there. And like I mentioned, I started networking and traveling it around the country and internationally. So it's been at several different venues around the United States. And some of the members have helped facilitate hosting it at an institution they might be or connected with. These are the venues with many more to come. It's still traveling, and actually, I'll be hosting it this fall at the University of North Texas. And just wanted to show you some recent pieces from the past year. So this is Creativity Bridge, where you can see the Thurmanite stand incorporating mythology and literary inspirations with the stories and concepts to the piece. And so in one way, this is a two-part candle holder, but also using the ideas of a candle as creative inspiration. And there you can see some details. I do a bit of digital fabrication, and so you can see the laser etched base of it with the historic image of Bellerophon, who was riding the Pegasus and using creativity to overcome and conquer the beast of the Chimera. This is another recent piece where part of the Suite series, where you can see the jewelry housed, the earrings hanging off the lid of the Thurmanite piece of the spun vessel. And Shamran is a Medusa-like figure from Turkish mythology. And you can see it here with the lathe-turned plate. And it sits in there, and the plate is slightly painted, so it looks a bit like the vessel is radiating light and coloring the plate that it's sitting on. And there's some details. The underside of the plate has a historic image of Shamran laser etched into it. And you can see the miniature painting technique, and always trying to improve myself and always improve each aspect of all of the components that go into the pieces. And if you're interested in learning more about my own work, I'm very active with my YouTube channel, trying to post a new instructional video in metalsmithing or jewelry or metal spinning pretty much every week. And also associated posts through my Instagram account. So hope you've enjoyed getting a little glimpse into my studio practice. So thanks very much. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can hear from me when I post future videos. Thanks for stopping by.